So as some of you guys might have seen, I recently made a video talking about the recent report that the Tigers might, of course, go best available. And that was the, I think, consensus that the Tigers were going to do for a couple weeks there. That would, of course, have been Sullivan, Roby, and Xavier Taylor on, what the draft board is actually looking like. But as it sits right now, we've had kind of a change of events. And I mean, what a surprise. It's the 2025 AFL draft where literally everybody and their dad has no clue what is going on, and the opinion about how it's going to unfold changes every week. Again, as mentioned, a couple weeks ago, it was said that the most likely thing that Richmond was going to do, and what it was believed that Richmond were going to do for a while there, was go best available, which is Sullivan, Roby, and Xavier Taylor. But now we are hearing that Cal Toomey believes that Richmond may draft for needs, and Sam Grill is firmly in the Tigers' sights. So, I mean, yeah, what a surprise that yet again, it has changed. But it goes on to say, and this is by Tiger Faithful, by the way, which what I'm reporting on right now. So go check them out, which will be on Instagram. I talk about a lot of their stuff in these videos, so go and do that. But it goes on to say, given how even the pool is at the top of the draft, Richmond may prioritize drafting Sam Grill with one of our top picks. I'm so on board with this. The kid has all the tools to be a fantastic player and someone who would complement our 2024 draft crop. He's lightning fast, agile, an endurance freak, and second in the time trial. Tough, aggressive, and has beautiful skills. He's highly likely to start his career as a halfback and move into the midfield when he's ready. If Grill is one of the selections, it's probably a flip of the coin between Roby and Taylor for the other pick. I think either way we will be getting some very talented players to add to our list. Taylor could be a long-term successor of Floston and Broad. Roby has that match-winning goal-kicking power that all the best teams have out of their midfielders. Exciting times ahead. Now, this is a really tough one because I was on the train of Richmond probably going best available, because you kind of have to talk yourself into it, because the draft and the consensus of what's going to happen genuinely changes like every week. You got to talk yourself into it. And I thought because the draft is starting in like a couple weeks at this point, that would be what we were going to be seeing. But now we may be getting, maybe the Tigers might be going on needs as well here. And the thing is that if we do go for draft needs, which Sam Grill does technically fit that ability, it's not like he's not one of the best available, because outside of Sullivan, Roby, and Xavier Taylor, which will probably be the two best available on the board by the time the Tigers are picking, I think Sam Grill is the consensus next best after them. Again, there will be people out there that will disagree with that. Some people believe it could honestly be Sam Cumming, who I might be one of those people. I have talked about it in mock draft that I believe that could also be the direction that the Tigers do go with. Then there are other people who will probably throw out some other names that the Tigers may go with. But I think the consensus, two best outside of Sullivan, Roby, and Xavier Taylor, do happen to be Sam Grill and Sam Cumming. Now, Grill, out of all four of those guys, probably fulfills what Richmond need the most. Because when I look at Richmond's midfield, other than maybe Carlton's, which will be probably changing a lot in next year as well, I think Richmond have one of the most one-dimensional teams, or most one-dimensional midfield, that I have seen. And I think there's a couple reasons for this, but also when you look at last year's draft, the Tigers just went best available, and those best available players in a Josh Smiley and a Sam Lawler, especially Josh Smiley, just happen to be pretty similar to what Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto are, which are those contested inside balls that the Tigers seem to have a lot of. Of course, if we put that bracket that group of Smiley, Taranto, and Hopper. You've also got Kane McAuliffe, who was in there as well. They've played him a lot throughout this last season. You also have Dion Prestia, who unfortunately has kind of turned more into a contested clearance player than what he used to be, which was being great at everything, but because he's got slower and his leg speed is just nowhere near as good, he doesn't bring that burst that he used to. So the Tigers midfield is very one-dimensional, and they don't have a lot of speed, ball use, or craft, and I think burst from that midfield. Of course, they are going to play Sam Lawler a lot more in there next year, who will add the crafty skills that the Tigers desperately need, but they still don't exactly have a guy in there who's going to add some speed and some burst. And I think Sam Grill could for sure be that option. Now, as this article, as this page also mentions, Sam Grill could very well start his career off as a halfback, and the Tigers very much have, I think, tested this out when they, of course, invited Sam Grill to play along with their VFL. He played as a halfback in the couple games he played with them. Quite frankly, actually dominated Zeke Yulin, the number 2 prospect to Gold Coast, when they played them. And he looked like a very solid halfback who I think could develop into being one of the better ones if they actually left him there, because his defensive skills looked pretty good, but it was his burst and speed from the halfback which was amazing and really showed me flashes of what Daniel Rioli was able to do in 2024, which I haven't seen since Rioli, of course, moved on from the team. So I think Sam Grill could 100% fulfill that aspect that Richmond could also need off halfback, but more so in a couple years, hopefully, fulfill the burst and need of speed in that midfield stoppage. Now, Sam Grill is being actually compared to a modern-day Max Holmes and a younger Chris Judd, just because of his burst from the stoppage and his speed. And we also know that Max Holmes not only has become one of the best midfielders in the game, but he actually started his career off as a halfback and didn't play midfield, for a couple of years there. So the Tigers could very well go on to draft Sam Grill, hoping they can kind of complete a similar blueprint to what Max Holmes was and a little bit of what Errol Goulden was, and play Sam Grill as a halfback for the first couple years. Maybe on the third year, he transitions into a midfield halfback, and the fourth year, like what Max Holmes has done, play him as a full-time midfielder. So that could be what the Tigers are looking to do here. He fills in so many needs. Like, the Tigers have, I think, a big issue when it does come to their burst and speed, whether it's on the inside or off halfback. The Tigers need it desperately, and that's why I almost feel like it makes a lot of sense to go with Sam Grill here. But you could argue it also just makes a whole lot of sense to go best available, because the Tigers probably aren't going to be good for another couple years, and this isn't probably a draft where you should be going on needs base. It's a draft that's much weaker, where you maybe should be going off best available. And if the Tigers did that, it's not like the guys they bring in won't be really positional needs either. Sullivan Roby, they would take as a best available guy there, who would be their high half forward, a taller high half forward option that the Tigers desperately need. They really don't have that. He's also another rotating piece who can rotate in the midfield with a, Sam Lawler and a Taj Houghton as well. All three can rotate from midfield to forward. That could be another option. And then there's the other best available player of Xavier Taylor, who, as mentioned earlier, Nathan Broad is going to be retiring after this year from what he said in interviews. And Nick Floston, as great as he's been, I wouldn't be surprised in a couple years his body just died because of how bloody much he's put his body on the line for the Tigers over the years. I don't necessarily know how long he's got left at this peak, and Xavier Taylor would be a good replacement for those guys. And we've still got a question mark on Josh Gibb, because we don't know if he's going to be what we hope he will be, especially with all the injuries. So I feel like the Tigers will probably still go best available. Do they maybe think that Sam Grill is also a part of that best available to go alongside Sullivan Roby? I'm not too sure. But if you ask me right now, Sullivan Roby is the best available. Xavier Taylor and Sam Grill are pretty close, and maybe they pick Sam Grill because he technically, at the moment, fits more needs-based than what Xavier Taylor does. I'm not too sure. This is probably going to change by the time I've posted this video, so we'll very well have to see how the Tigers, of course, are assessing this 2025 AFL draft and whatnot. Again, I'd very much like to know all your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Are you guys excited to see how the 2025 AFL draft goes and how Richmond plays? All of the above. Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to my gaming/movie channel, which will be linked down below. Subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content and news. Go give me an Instagram follow down below as well if you haven't already. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.